Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mom and Tom podcast. I'm Mom.
And I'm Tom. And today is episode 12 of our podcast, and it is going to be revolving around Mother's Day. So when we post this, it's going to be just a couple days until Mother's Day weekend. So we wanted to do a special episode today dedicated to all the mothers out there. First of all, before we get started, though, I wanted to quick mention our social media stuff. First of all, we have an email. Our email is momandtompodcast@gmail.com. That's just all one word, no spaces, nothing else in there. So feel free to send us emails if you have recommendations or feedback about our episodes. And also, today we have a special guest here. It is Rachel, my sister and another daughter of Mom. And sorry.
There's one daughter.
Yeah, only one daughter.
Only one.
But I meant to say child, not daughter. And she actually runs our social media, so I'm going to let her give the quick shout out for our Instagram.
Hey everybody, my name is Rachel, and I run our social media here on Mom and Tom Podcast. So the Instagram is just the @ Mom and Tom Podcast. All one word, no spaces, no funky things. And you should definitely check it out.
Thank you very much. So the reason
Rachel.
that Rachel is here is because she is a new mother. My nephew Warren, he's about how many months old now?
He'll be 7 months on the 13th.
7 months. Okay. So we are going to be kind of doing a discussion about, what it's like to be a mother now as opposed to when Mom was.
When your old mother was a mother.
24 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm still a mother.
So,
Always.
one more thing to address before we get started. I know everybody's going to be thinking, wait a second, Endgame came out. Why are we not talking about Endgame? And that is a legitimate question. And we are actually going to be doing a full in-depth review of Endgame on our next episode.
Yes.
So in 2 weeks from now,
Endgame.
Avengers Endgame, yeah. 2 weeks from now, we'll be diving into that. So if you still haven't seen it yet,
Better go see it.
Yeah, make sure to go and see it before we talk about it next time.
It's good.
It is good. I've seen it twice.
I've only seen it once,
Oh,
but Dad has seen
slacker.
it 3
Too.
times.
Once.
All right. So now that that's out of the way, our first topic of discussion that we're going to bring up is how prepared did you feel when you were about to have your child? And I'm going to let Rachel take this one first.
Okay, so when I found out I was pregnant with Warren, it was kind of a surprise. My husband knew it before I did. And so when I found out I was pregnant with him, I was working at a restaurant, and then I ended up quitting because it was just too much for while I was pregnant. And I ended up working at KinderCare, and it was an amazing job, and it taught me so much about kids in general. So I felt like that really helped me get prepared on how to take care of a baby, but nothing prepares you for any kid because they're all so different from each other.
Right. And Mom, what did you think when you found out that you were pregnant?
Well, first of all, I just want to say it's kind of interesting too because Rachel was 23 when she got pregnant. I was 32 when I had her. And
Yeah, quite a difference.
Yeah. But I mean, the numbers are switched. You're supposed to, you're my math kid. You're supposed to pick up on these
I
things.
get it.
So I was a little older, and I was smack dab in the middle of my career. And it was funny because it had taken us a while to become pregnant, and I actually had sort of given up on it or let it go. And so when I did get pregnant, it took me a while to figure it out. And one of my coworkers actually brought it to my attention because I was complaining about gaining weight.
Oh.
So she said, anyway, so, but it was very, very exciting because Dad and I had been married for about 7 years, and, everybody was waiting for us to have children. So it was very exciting. But I will say I was the youngest of 5 children, so I never babysat, and I did not know anything about taking care of babies. So I was a little bit terrified. So, I tried to prepare myself the best I could. I read, the what to expect when you're expecting, and then the what to expect the first year. And I even signed up for this free newsletter that would help me because I was very aware of my lack of knowledge. So I tried to educate myself, but I totally echo what Rachel is saying, is that nothing can completely prepare you. So just accept that.
So just a quick piggyback off that. Did either of you guys ever take classes or something? I know that there's classes that you can take.
Okay, so sorry, it's Rachel. So when I went to my OBGYN, they always recommend you take a couple of classes, and they are classes that you had to pay for through the hospital. My husband and I personally went to a lactation class because I was like, I have no idea what breastfeeding is. I needed to know some more about that. And I actually ended up not breastfeeding, which was kind of a weird fun fact there.
Maybe.
It just didn't work out. So, so my husband and I both took the labor and birth class because we didn't know what to expect because it was our first kid. So we're like, we don't know how contractions work. We don't know how early or when we're supposed to go to the hospital. And my husband especially didn't know anything because he's not a woman. But I knew a little bit, but you never can completely prepare for that. And it was nice to go through a class and get more informed.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't take any other classes, but I did we took the birth and labor, and
always recommend that.
Yeah. That's kind of really sort of a minimum, if you will, because it's just so helpful to know, like you said, when do you go to the hospital? What do you do? That kind of thing. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The next thing that we wanted to get into is expectations for your new baby. Was there any expectations that you had for what you thought that the baby would look like?
For Dad and I do remember us talking about it, and we would kind of joke about it because we would sort of pick out things that we both had in common, like physical attributes that maybe we both had in common. Mm-hmm. So we decided that we knew our kids would have crooked teeth and that they would have a lot of hair because
accurate.
Because we both had braces, and both of our families just have a lot of hair. So
yeah, so I will say that her predictions were correct because all of us ended up with braces, and we all have a ton of hair, and I'm actually a hairstylist and I cut everybody's hair. So yes, we have a lot of hair, and it's fun though.
Yeah.
For my son, my husband and I, talked about traits we had in common also. And we both have very pronounced dimples on our cheeks when we smile. And yep, Warren ended up with, my son's name is Warren. He ended up with dimples, and he smiles all the time because we love smiling. And he's got big, bright eyes. And we both have pretty, I would say, eyes that you notice. And it'll be interesting to see what color he gets, though, because my husband is blue and I have brown. And they're looking blue so far. But I had a feeling he was going to have a lot of hair because I was born with a lot of hair, and he has a ton of it.
He has a ton.
And it's wavy like both mine and my husband's hair. And he has a very stubborn personality like we both do. And that'll lead into our next thing.
Yeah, I actually was just going to go into that. I was going to ask you if there's any certain expectations you have for what you think that Warren's gonna be like, at least for a little while.
Yeah. So I have a theory on his personality. So recently our aunt passed away last year, and she was a very stubborn and silly woman. We love her so much. And my son is exactly like her. He's very stubborn and he's super silly. He loves to laugh and he's very ticklish and he's super fun. But one funny thing I think will happen with him in the future is my husband and I are both very musical people. And so I think ever since he was in my tummy, whenever he'd hear a strong drum beat in a song, he would kick and move around so much. And it was super funny. And I was like, what are you doing in there? Mm-hmm. And so I honestly think he's going to be a drummer.
That'd be pretty cool. I know this was a while ago, but do you have do you remember any things that you thought that maybe like out of me or Rachel or our little brother Joey, what we would have been like?
I really don't recall having definitive thoughts as to this is what they're going to be like, but I remember feeling very curious and interested into how your personalities would form and what you would be like. So I really feel like I went into it with just wanting to watch where your personality would go, where your bents were, what were the things that you liked or didn't like. And so I was fascinated by you guys and just watched and observed intently. And it was very interesting because, Rachel has from the beginning was pretty dramatic. And it's funny that you talk about Warren moving to music because you were the same way. Whenever there was worship music, you would just move. And I felt like you were swinging back and forth on a vine in there. I just thought, oh my goodness. But it was kind of cool because you're obviously reacting to that. And then Tom was my biggest baby, and yet he is pretty much the opposite of Rachel, which really ended up well because you guys were both so close in age, being only 16 months apart, that Tom was so chill and so laid back that
we complemented each other well.
Yes. Which was the only way I could have survived.
Yeah, Tom and I have always been very balanced growing up, I would say. Though he spent a lot of middle school years like egging me on whenever I got dramatic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's what little brothers do. So moving a little bit away from expectations to reality, what was that sleep schedule like?
Oh,
because I know that the first, I don't even know how many months to say, but first many months are hard on the mother, but also both parents for not just the baby's up constantly, crying constantly. What was your experience like, especially having 16 months apart?
Yeah. Well, again, nothing can prepare you for this, but
nothing.
You just don't know tired until you've had a baby. And maybe there are parents out there whose child came home and slept and was a consistent sleeper. I have no idea what that would be like because none of mine were like that. Rachel, I would say, was the fussiest, and part of that could have been part of that could have been us and our the nervousness of first time parents. So
babies pick up on everything.
Yeah, so that could have partially been from us, but not that completely. But anyway, she would get up in the middle of the night to feed, and she did not go back to sleep, and she was up for a good 2-3 hours.
I wanted to party.
and I just remember almost falling asleep standing up, and then Dad caught me before that happened. But and then Tom again was different. You could be drowsy and I could put you down for a nap and you'd just look at me like, okay, see you later, and fall asleep. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh. And then again, Joey was somewhere in between. Joey was really somewhere in between. He wasn't quite as fussy as Rachel, but he wasn't quite as mellow as Tom. So
yeah, I did want to ask. So because I don't know if we've ever explained this, but yeah, me and Rachel are 16 months apart. But then our younger brother Joey, he was about 5 years later. So when he was born, did it amplify the problem of the sleeping? Like, did he wake us up too?
I don't remember him waking you guys up. I remember being worried when we had you, Tom, because we worried about you waking up Rachel because she was the one that was so hard to go back to sleep. And that happened. I remember the first night we brought you guys home. Oh my gosh. You started crying, then Rachel started crying. And I remember laying on the bed and saying, what have we done?
Were we in separate rooms?
Yeah, at first.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, you were at first in separate rooms.
Gotcha. So passing it over to Rachel, what was your experience like with sleeping?
Very fresh in her mind.
Oh my goodness. So Warren ended up being a big baby when he was born. So he was 9 pounds, 8 ounces and 22 inches. He was gigantor. So being a bigger baby, he was probably born with a bigger stomach. So from the start, he ate a little bit more often, I would say, than a normal baby would. It always seemed like when they fed him at the hospital, because when you go through the labor and birth classes, they tell you how much they eat at certain points or whatever. And I think he always kind of ate a little more than a normal baby would, because he came out looking like a 3-month-old. So he pretty much wanted to eat every hour and a half to 2 hours when he was born. It was probably more like an hour and a half, because he would get up and be like, I'm hungry. Then it'd take maybe like 10-15 minutes to get things going, and then another 10-15 minutes to feed him and go back to sleep. So yeah, he was like that for the first 2 weeks, I would say. And then after that, it started getting longer in between. And then one night, I think he was 3 weeks old, he slept for 7 hours straight. And I woke up and I saw what time it was. And I was like, is my baby dead? What is going on?
Oh.
And I look over and he's just asleep. He was just asleep.
Yeah,
and
you kind of get that panic. You kind of, when they first sleep through the night, you go,
yeah. It was amazing. Like, he didn't do that again for a little while. He would sleep maybe like a 4-hour stretch, which was still pretty good. But then after that, he would sleep consistently 6 hours, then maybe another 3 or 4 hours after that. But he would maybe stay up for an hour once in a while. But yeah, I remember the first couple months was really hard to get him used to a sleep schedule. And the first week, he actually had his days and nights mixed up, which was sad. But nothing prepares you for how tired you are, and then plus healing from giving birth is really hard too. And you're both tired, like you and your partner are both very tired, so it's like it's definitely a test of your relationship, but it honestly makes you so much stronger. And I honestly feel more in love with my husband than I've ever been. So
cool.
So yeah, that was actually partially something I wanted to bring up next was, did you guys have to agree with some sort of trade-off schedule with your husband? Like say, I take these nights, you take these, or something like that?
I think that's the best way if you can do that. I mean, obviously, I'm sure some people have situations where maybe they can't do that. But if you can, that is, Dad and I did that. We kind of made deals with each other, like nobody's up for more than 2.5 hours. If you're up that long, you wake the other one up, blah blah blah. And I did breastfeed, so I would try to pump during the week so that one of the weekend nights I could sleep through the night, because Dad would get up with you guys.
Right. And so when it came to like which nights was the first person to wake up, though? Did you have any, or was it just like whoever happened to wake up first? So that was who it was.
I don't remember.
Did you have anything like that, Rachel?
Well, I think honestly, whenever the baby cries, you both wake up pretty much, because the baby's cry is wired for your ears. So I remember the first time when he came out and cried, I was just like, as nails on a chalkboard. I would always wake up to
Mhm.
that. Like,
Mhm. I think that's true.
but that's good though, because it'll wake you up from your sleep. But and don't ever worry about that because you will wake up. So, oh yeah, sleep schedule. Sorry, my mom brain forgot. Um, so what we did at first, the first couple weeks we traded off a lot. I think my husband probably did a little bit more of the work because I was healing from both regular labor and a C-section. So that was really hard on me to get up and down a lot for a little while. So after that, when my husband went back to work, I would wake up with him every night that my husband worked in the morning. So it was like 5 nights in a row, but I would also sleep with him when he napped during the day. And then on weekends, my husband would get up with him. So I would have a couple nights of full sleep, and I would just take care of him most of the day, which was nice. And then now that my husband and I are both back to work, we usually do every other night, or if he slept good that night or whatever, I would just end up with him in the morning because my husband gets up early for work and I work at night. So
Okay, so basically based off work, that makes sense for the
Yeah.
trade-off.
Yeah.
So one of the last topics I wanted to bring up is, what was it like trying to find ways to entertain your baby? And this one is a big one that's, I'm thinking, will be different between the generations here, because one of the things that I know people bring up all the time when it comes to parenting these days is the influence of electronics. Just because, I mean, I know a lot of people say a lot of bad things about electronics, but at the same time, it does provide, something that keeps them busy. I mean, it's
A little bit of respite.
yeah, and so I don't want to go all about saying it's evil and stuff. I think there are good and bad things to it. But Mom, what was your experience when we were very little?
Well, keep in mind when you guys were little, there were not the iPads.
90s
and-
babies.
Yeah. So no iPads, things like that. So basically we had, videos, the television, or reading and things like that. So I remember that as you guys started getting a little bit older, I needed the structure of a schedule, and I felt like I wanted that for you guys too. So I mean, we'd get up, we'd have breakfast, and then I would let your food kind of digest, so I would let you either watch TV or a video. And, you guys probably remember some of those videos. Usually they were musical.
Barney.
Yeah. Well, Barney was
Mr.
the TV,
Rogers.
but the videos were usually, do you
Oh.
remember like Salty and like the Donut Man? And,
Donut Man.
Yeah. They're usually musical videos in which you guys both liked. You liked music, and you would get up and do the actions with the kids on the video and stuff like that.
We ended up being band kids
Yeah.
for years.
And then, depending upon the weather, I would turn off the TV and try to get you outside for a while. And we had a swing set, so that was kind of nice. So we'd get outside and do that for a while, and then I'd bring you back in and probably do like a snack, and then and then yeah, and when you were really little, one of the tricks was to get you to both nap at the same time, and that was probably hardest on Tom because I would. Rachel had gone to a 1 nap a day schedule. Tom was still on more of a 2 nap a day schedule, but I would try to keep him up so that he would nap at the same time as Rachel, because otherwise I thought I was going to die. I just needed a point at which you were both down and I could rest.
That's fair. I forgive you for that. Ruining my 2 nap schedule.
So that's an interesting thing of going from 1 child to 2. When you only have 1, you can nap when they nap. When you have 2, if they don't nap at the same time, you can't do that. So that was
Yeah.
my evil plan of trying to get you to both nap at the same time. But as far as the electronics, I will say Dad and I definitely tried to limit them. We had a limit policy, and I think Tom, you even said you remember that when you were little, we would only let you be on electronics for an hour, which you had
Yep.
more interest than Rachel, so it wasn't really an issue with Rachel.
I was an outside kid. I was very obsessed with horses when I was younger. So me and my neighbor girl, she was obsessed too.
Yeah.
So we'd go outside and play horses for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very interested in games like Battleship. and
Yeah.
Roller Coaster Tycoon was another one that I really
Yes.
liked. I remember getting really frustrated with Battleship, and my dad would always have to talk to me about how, Tom, it's just a game. And what was funny is that it's not like I was even playing against somebody. Like I was
No.
playing against just the computer.
Yeah.
And the computer would beat me, and I'd get so mad that I'd cry
Yeah.
that the computer beat me. And then
I remember that.
Yep, and Dad would say, "No, Tom, we don't cry over video games.
Yeah.
We don't cry over games."
Well, the initial version of that was over cars. You probably don't even remember.
Oh yeah.
You used to line up your cars, and you'd line them up in a very meticulous, specific way. And I have no idea what was going on in your brain, but I would watch you.
So by cars, by the way, she means like we had these little Hot Wheel cars
Yeah.
and stuff, little plastic cars, and I'd in our living room upstairs. Yeah, I would
Line 'em up, yeah.
Line them all up for some reason.
And then if somebody bumped him, he'd cry. And I remember Dad saying to you, Tom, same line, we don't cry over trucks. We don't cry over trucks.
Yeah.
I will say I was probably the biggest offender to moving the cars. So I'm sorry, Tom.
Probably either you or the dog.
Yeah, or
Probably.
anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dog. Yeah, you both liked blocks and puzzles and things like that. So
Yeah, we
anyway,
did those together a lot.
Yeah. So, Rachel, what kind of things do you use to keep Warren busy now? And what do you think, once he's old enough to start using electronic devices, what do you have some sort of, at least somewhat of a plan
or-
of what you want to do?
So right now he is a baby. So he's still discovering everything, and he's a very curious baby. I will say that. Like I could leave him alone for almost like 15 minutes and he'd just be entertaining himself now, which is kind of nice. Cuz when they're really little, you have to find ways to entertain them or else they're sitting there bored and they'll maybe start crying cuz they're bored. But once they get out of the sleeping all the time stage. But yeah, right now he loves tummy time. He loves to play on the floor. Even though a couple of months ago he hated tummy time because he was like, why am I on my stomach by myself? But now he loves it because he loves exploring. And I try to switch out his toys every couple of weeks so he's exposed to more different types of toys and figures them out. Right now he loves to smash things on the ground or on his high chair tray. Like he gets really mad if I don't give him his spoon after feeding his baby food so he can smash it on the high chair tray and play with it. But
we might have a drummer on our hands.
yeah, that's why another reason why I think he's going to be a drummer because he loves to smash things. So we always go baby smash. Okay, so back to electronics. Right now, he's not extremely interested in them, though he loves our phones. Like, he wants to grab them and play with them, but we don't let him because, he could accidentally dial 911. But and that's not good. But, yeah, it's funny. I remember when he was 1 year old. Not 1 year old. He's not 1 year old. 1 month old. 1 month old.
Wait.
Sorry. He's 1 month old, and he was crying for forever. For like an hour, and I was like, I've changed you, I fed you, I don't even know what's going on. And I turn on Friends on the TV and he just immediately is silent and just watches it. So he loves
Oh,
to watch
dear.
Friends to this day.
Oh my.
He's so funny, and he does that kind of with The Office too. But yeah,
Oh,
he's
great subject matter.
I'm sorry. It's just what we like, and I don't know. I guess he doesn't completely understand it yet, but
Hey, I just want to say shout out to other sets of grandparents that when I put on Fixer Upper, he was entranced.
oh yeah,
Just saying.
yeah. He loves it when on TV there's a lot of things going on. So he'll watch it sometimes, but he has a short attention span because he's only like 7 months old. So he'll want to like play with a toy at the same time, or I just kind of keep the TV on for background noise. But then when he's older, I think we'll probably start with limiting him to like a half an hour when he's like a toddler, and then build on there like every 15 minutes every year or something like that. And then once he gets to maybe like, I don't know, a teenager age, I'll start telling him, homework first, and, try to hang out with a friend first. But if you're bored, you can play video games until bedtime, or watch a movie. I'll just make sure it's probably not his first priority, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good plan. I know that you had said earlier something about how
Even though you didn't follow that when you were a teenager.
unless Warren ends up really loving video games and wants to make a career out of it, then I'll support it.
Oh, she's bailing you out still.
Yeah.
She's always been bailing you out.
It is a lucrative industry, though. I might need him to take care of me when I'm older.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a possibility there. Yeah, I know. Mom was saying that she had sort of a similar plan where we'd get limited to about an hour. And then I don't know if I've ever told you this story before, but what we used to like to do, me and one of my neighbor friends, is we really like to climb trees. And so what we would do is once that we would hang out in our house.
I hear a confession coming up.
we would hang out in our house for, the hour allotted time that we were allowed to play games. And then they'd say, okay, now you have to go outside. Well, then both of us would put our Game Boys in our pockets, and then we'd climb all the way up the tree, and we'd play Game Boy up in the tree. But the trees had so many leaves in our front yard that you couldn't really see. So if when you came out to talk to us, or Dad came out to talk to us, you couldn't really see us. We'd just say like, "Oh, we're up in the tree."
Oh man.
Hey, but I turned out all right.
By the way, you're welcome for never ratting you out, because I knew about this.
Thank you. But I turned out all right, I think.
Not over yet.
That's
Just
true.
kidding.
So just to wrap things up, I wanted to sort of reiterate something that you guys had been mentioning a couple times throughout our conversation here, and that is that it's good to prepare yourself for these type of things, like to, like you're talking about, to take the classes, read as much as you can, learn as much as you can, talk to people who have been through it. But in the end, it's going to be a unique experience for everybody. Like, no baby is the same, and it's just going to be so much different than you expect, no matter what you expect, pretty much.
I would agree. So give yourself grace, give yourself permission, and know that you're going to be okay, that you're certainly not the first person who's been through this, and ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for support and help.
Yeah, because I believe, honestly, that these babies are given to you for a reason, and you will be equipped to make the decisions to handle this. Like, even if you have to give this baby up for adoption, like, there will be a way provided for this kid to be taken care of, or you personally will be able to take care of this baby. It's sometimes you go into survival mode, but it's possible. Like, people have survived on nothing taking care of a baby, and kids turn out amazing. So
yeah, just believe in yourself and you'll make it through.
You got this.
Yeah.
You were created for this.
We need
that about wraps up our discussion about motherly duties and what it's like to be a new mother. Thank you, Rachel, so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was very cool to hear your insight on what it's like since it's been so recent. Just to wrap it up again, if you want to send us an email, our email is momandtompodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word. And then we also have an Instagram that the URL is just instagram.com/momandtompodcast. Feel free to give us a follow and let us know how Rachel's doing, posting our stuff for us.
And Rachel, very happy first Mother's Day to you.
Yes.
Aw, thanks. Well, I was pregnant for the last Mother's Day, but yeah, and happy 24th Mother's Day to you, Mom.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there who's listening, who's is a mother. And I think that's all we have this week.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be back next week with an Avengers Endgame review.
2 weeks. In 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Sorry. Next episode.
All right.
Bye.